Hi, PerspectaWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Friday, October 5th. A cool frontal system slipped through the I-95 corridor in the overnight hours, and it is much cooler this morning compared to yesterday morning. At this time, a noticeable breeze out of the northeast with some low clouds, and it'll stay quite cool, quite fall-like for today and tomorrow as well. And again, lots of clouds and can be a touch of drizzle at just about any time later today, tonight, and even on the day Saturday. Then, as high-pressure ridging really intensifies in the eastern U.S., we'll turn much warmer again next week, beginning on Sunday. High temperatures Sunday afternoon at or slightly above the 80-degree mark in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor, and for much of next week, we'll be above normal here in the Mid-Atlantic region with high temperatures near that 80-degree mark. At the same time, the western U.S. will experience a deep upper-level trough, colder than normal conditions, and even some significant snow in some of the higher elevations out west during next week. We also have to watch for a tropical system that is currently located over the Caribbean Sea. And here's the latest infrared satellite imagery of the Atlantic Basin. And here is that system of interest right now. It is situated over the Caribbean Sea, not a named system, and I believe it has a pretty good chance of spilling out over into the Gulf of Mexico over the next few days, and perhaps by the middle of next week it could become a named system. Not even out of the question that it becomes a weak hurricane, and certainly by the middle of next week there could be a threat for this portion from Texas to the panhandle of Florida of the Gulf of Mexico region. So again, this is an area of interest with high pressure ridging really setting up over the northeastern part of the country, southeastern part of Canada. That raises a red flag because it basically opens the door for a tropical system to have an impact on the southeast U.S. Meanwhile, out over the Atlantic, we have a tropical storm. Leslie has been situated out there. Still no threat to the U.S. mainland. It looks like it'll probably move in this fashion over the next few days. Well, I thought we'd take a look at a couple of different time frames for the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast. First of all, for this morning, Friday morning, then we'll jump ahead a few days to Tuesday morning to see a tremendous intensification both sides of the nation with the ridging in the east and the troughing in the west. Canada has been very cold over the last several weeks. In fact, September was one of the coldest in many, many years across the nation of Canada. For the most part, that cold air has been bottled up there. Certainly has not been able to drop south and east into the eastern U.S. The northern plains, yes, they have become quite cold over the past several days. But for the most part, that cold air has remained up there until this coming week. Now it will plunge in the western U.S. all the way down into the southwest U.S. In fact, colder than normal air will plunge all the way down into Mexico during the next few days. And here we stand this morning with high pressure ridging over the eastern U.S. and the deep upper level trough over the west. But let's jump ahead now to Tuesday morning and just see how these two areas intensify, both in the east, both in the west, both in the east and west. Here we have very strong upper level ridging with a focus over the northeastern U.S., southeastern part of Canada come Tuesday morning of next week, and a deep upper level trough centered over the Four Corners region. Cold with some snow out in the west and very warm conditions here beginning on Sunday in the Mid-Atlantic region. Once we get out of this northeasterly flow of air, temperatures should jump from near 70 degrees on Saturday afternoon to 80 degrees on Sunday, and it'll stay warm for much of next week. Now you can imagine in this battle zone region in the middle of the nation, there will indeed be several inches of rain over the next 5 or 7 days or so. Again, the clash here between the cold and snow to the west and the summer-like warmth to the east will produce significant rainfall right in the heartland over the next several days. Well, let's now take a look at the impact on temperatures from the upper level pattern that is developed. And by the way, these are from the ensemble run of the GFS at 6E last night. The current 5-day period of 850 millibar temperature anomalies shows well above normal here in the east, with a focus of the most extreme above normal over the eastern part of the Great Lakes, the western part of the Mid-Atlantic region. At the same time, during the current 5-day period, days 1 to 5, very cold conditions now plunging from Canada, that cold air plunging from Canada all the way down into Baja California, the most extreme part in terms of relative to normal over the western part of the Dakotas and the eastern part of Montana during the next 5-day period. Now let's jump to days 6 to 10. And here we go. Kind of similar pattern here, but a little bit of a shift to the east in both the colder than normal conditions out west, and now spreading into the upper part of the Midwest, and the warmer than normal conditions. Again, this is days 6 to 10 around October 10th to the 15th. Still throughout the eastern U.S., but it's kind of shifting a little bit with that axis. And notice the battle zone region now here shifting to the upper part of the Midwest as compared with the middle part of the nation. Now, if we then go out even farther in time to days 11 to 15, this is right around the beginning, the middle of the month, October 15th to the 20th. Notice cold air finally makes inroads into the northeastern U.S. So again, a warm week coming up, beginning on Sunday in the eastern half of the nation. Looks like for much of next week, it'll be summer-like in the east and cold with some snow in the west, winter-like in the west. Eventually, that colder air does make its way into the northeastern part of the nation by the middle part of the week. In the October 15th time frame, look for colder air to finally make inroads into the mid-Atlantic region. Well, let's kind of wrap up with a short-term look here at the current conditions in the northeastern quadrant of the nation here. And again, we had that cold frontal system that slipped through the I-95 part in the overnight hours. Now, virtually everywhere in the northeastern part of the nation has north to northeast flow of air all the way down into southern Virginia. This is bringing in much cooler conditions and some low clouds from off the ocean. Really, we have kind of an onshore flow of air, not only for today, but tonight and tomorrow, and that certainly can eventually produce some drizzle at just about any time later today, tonight, and tomorrow. Once we get rid of that northeast cool flow of air, temperatures will jump by Sunday afternoon back to the 80-degree mark, following perhaps 70 degrees on Saturday afternoon in the I-95 corridor region. So a lot going on, a big split in the nation coming for next week. Summer-like conditions return to the Mid-Atlantic region on Sunday and stick around virtually through next week. At the same time, the western U.S. will be cold with some significant snow in some of the higher elevation locations, and we'll have to monitor closely the movement of the Caribbean Sea tropical wave. Very well could end up in the Gulf of Mexico as a named system by the middle part of next week. That's it for now. For PerspectaWeather.com, I'm meteorologist